Fuffa.
Here comes the Fuffa. That's what they'll say every single time, like a kick in the guts.
I'd run off and I'd cry.
Here comes Yopo, the Fuffa.
When kids in the village would sing that in front of Dad.
Se soía.
Oi, Sole, you get so angry.
Yopo,
Yeah.
Sole, son, walk like a man.
Our sister would catch us wearing your stuff.
But I thought I looked pretty. At dances in the village, I'd want to put on that Tulinga headdress.
Then, the whole village would stare. People would laugh. The light went dark, and I felt nothing. But I'd go to the mountain.
And dance by the waterfall.
Being free was a beautiful thing. If I leave, I'll take my roots with me. A piece of home to carry.
In my blood.
Hold on tight.
As I shift in the wind, I'll land and plant these pieces, and I'll grow. Walk like a man, Yopo. That's what Dad used to yell. Nah. I reckon I'll walk just like me.
Sao malosi ilelalolangi Ai wangalo yatea uole sili sili ese olelangi Euina o savali ile pongisa Ai salofa mai oia Ole Lea ua o soe ola.
Hey folks, and welcome to this week's News and Community Spotlight. Epic Mega Grants Week is upon us. Journey to unrealengine.com/events for news stories, artist insights, and tips on what makes projects stand out. Omno is an inspiring project, which dreams are likely to be measured against, but it wasn't easy. Following your dreams takes guts, and solo developer Jonas Monkey knows all too well. Join us at unrealengine.com/feed with the Studio Inky Fox founder as he discusses how he made the critically acclaimed adventure game Omno, what inspirations he drew from, and the journey from crowdfunding to receiving an Epic Mega Grant. With drive, determination, talent, and Unreal Engine 5, FX Animation Studio hopes to inspire its local community of Mozambique. Kibwe, their upcoming animated movie that houses such cultural significance as a project, is about a young girl on a fantastic adventure to discover herself. Learn more on the feed. While there, learn about the colourful game that mixes 3D aesthetics with 2D character pixel art. along with how husband and wife indie developer duo finished this cat-centric farm sim adventure, Snacko, with the help of their cats and an epic mega grant. The Green Fairy does it all: VR, TV shows, TikTok vlogs, and video games. In this spotlight, Mega Grant recipient Conocore shows us just how far you can take a good idea if you're having fun and staying creative. Designing a broad range of characters provides the opportunity to achieve greater originality and creativity, and play a crucial role in diversity in the games industry, especially for women and girls. Supported by Dove, the Center for Appearance Research, and the education team, this course will guide you through defining real virtual beauty, introspection and co-design, technical tips, and more. Find out more on the feed. Introducing this month's highlighted tutorials created by you, the community. Explore the MetaSounds editor and the hierarchy of MetaSounds, patches, sources, and presets with Matt Spendlove, and learn how to craft interactive audio experiences influenced by player proximity, controlled by blueprints, or keyframed in Sequencer. Are you just starting out with Unreal Engine 5 and looking for beginner-friendly tutorials? Here is one of a series of small but handy tutorials on creating your first game in UE5 by the experienced level artist and Mega Grant recipient Mega Mau Mau. Whether you want to jump or glide, let's learn about movable platforms. Learn the perfect workflow and convenient process for gathering, evaluating, and modifying properties on all textures within a level using the Unreal Python API. If you're getting started with UE or the Unreal Python API, tutorial creator Isaac Costa has a tutorial on that too. Dive into all the tutorials mentioned today and more at dev.epicgames.com/community. Kicking off this week's community spotlights. Take a trip to Iceland or don't, you no longer need to, now that architect and 3D artist Aurelian has finished up their breathtaking and transporting piece that perfectly captures the beauty of Iceland. Let them know what you think on the forums. We'll spin your way through surreal biomes filled with living nightmares, eerie caves, and brutal bosses to keep driving the road to freedom. And that's not even nightmare mode in Gripper, a stylized top-down action RPG rip and grip by Hardcore. Wishlist now on the Epic Games Store. Waiting for museums to open? Set sail instead to the cute and cozy town builder game that blends relaxing gameplay where you can build, farm, gather, and craft at your own pace. If you want some action, head to the other islands or the high seas to see what you can see with up to 4 friends. Learn more about Land Ahoy on the forums. Thanks for watching. Catch you next week.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Inside Unreal, a weekly show where we learn, explore, and celebrate everything Unreal. I am your host, Tina, and today with me I have an incredible guest list, panel, section, whatever word we want to throw in here today, to help us celebrate and discuss the Mega Grant Week that we're celebrating so far. We're going to be diving into a couple of these Mega Grant recipients projects that we have brought on today that are just absolutely incredible, so much fun. I know you're going to enjoy them. And we're also going to be taking a little bit of time to talk about the Mega Grant program itself, some ways that you can try and stand out on your application if you are interested in trying to apply for it, and all those good bits and tips and tricks and all of the like. But to start us off, I'm going to go through and we'll introduce everybody for today. First off, let's start with Ari. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'd love to. Thank you, Tina. So, hi everyone. My name is Ari. I'm an Unreal Engine evangelist at Epic Games. And I guess you want to know a little bit about me. So, like a little bit about my background. I've been making games as a programmer for about 15 years. Done all sorts of games, like from Flash games to mobile games. I used to work for Rovio doing Angry Birds for a little while, and then latest to console titles. I was lead programmer on Returnal for PS5, which was the last thing I did before coming to Epic Games, and now I just advise other people on how to code.
Awesome. And we're so happy to have you here in general and also on
Really happy
stream.
to be here.
And then next up, we have Elena. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
Absolutely. I'm the founder of Yaldi Games. We're a company with the mission to inspire real-life activities through games. So we're currently making Wholesome Out and About, which is a foraging game that has real plants, recipes, and crafting instructions.
Yes, and it is incredible. Quick little spoiler alert for everyone. It is absolutely adorable, and I love it so much. And then next we have Haz. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Definitely. Hi. Well, firstly, I'm just awesome to be here. I'm so happy. I'm Haz Dalal, everyone. I am a filmmaker. Previously worked in live action, so I've done 2 sci-fi feature films that were on Netflix, and I did a show for Disney. Due to pandemic, I had to figure out ways to continue telling stories, and I embraced Unreal Engine, and we've just finished our animated feature film, which I'm going to talk about, called Rift, and it's currently just been announced today. It's going to be playing at the Toronto Animation Festival. There you go.
Very, very exciting stuff. Next, we have Alan. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. And also thanks from me for having me, and such a great opportunity. And I'm the founder of Alchemical Works, which is at the moment currently just me. And I'm making the role-playing game Battlejuice Alchemist and working on expanding the team to make this even better.
Yes, it's going to be, I mean, it's already incredible. So seeing it get any better is going to be a hard ask from me because I think it's already up there, but I'm very excited
Thank
to
you.
see where it goes. And then last but certainly not least, we have Christian. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hello. I'm Christian Allen. I am also an evangelist at Epic, focusing on the Unreal Engine. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, which makes me feel old. I'm a game designer by trade. Did AAA for quite a while, Tom Clancy, Halo, Lord of the Rings. Also ran my own studio doing indie games for about 5 years, and been at Epic now for about 5 years. And I focus on North America. So if you're making a game in Unreal Engine, especially an indie game that showcases the engine and showcases your artistic talent, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, there you go. Now, everyone, please go flood Christian's DMs. He did ask for it. So awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. Really appreciate having you. Very excited to discuss everything that we've brought. But before we dive too far in, I want to hand it over to Ari and Christian. And I was wondering if both of you would mind kind of elaborating on what exactly is the Mega Grant program, and if you can kind of let anybody who might not know what it is know what all is going on here.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the Mega Grant program, well, first off, it's kind of in the name. It is a grant program that Epic has to really help developers across different mediums get a leg up to help with their projects. It is a grant program, i.e. not a publishing deal, not an equity investment or anything like that. They are grants that we award to projects that we think showcase the engine really well, showcase developers from around the world. There's a straight up application process. You go on the website, you fill out the information, you submit your build and your video or other supporting materials, and then you basically get a yes or no back. I know we'll get into a lot more detail, but if you are working in Unreal Engine, or if you're thinking about working in Unreal Engine for your project, I highly, highly recommend you go take a look. Did I miss anything, Ari?
It was quite good. It's not only about showcasing also, because it can be for all kinds of stuff, like not just games. It can be about like educational institutions. If you want to teach Unreal Engine, you can apply for a grant. If you want to make a plugin that's something that, for example, contributes more to the 3D community at large, that's definitely something we want to would be interested in funding. So yeah, there's like all sorts of things, and you don't have to worry about I don't know if this is specifically a showcase. Like you lose every shot you don't take, so just try sending an application.
Absolutely. It is definitely personally one of my favorite programs that we have at Epic. I think it's just incredible the things that our community builds and makes on their own anyway. And then just knowing that we get to have even a small part in helping you reach the ultimate goal that you're going for feels very humbling, in my opinion. So I'm very, very thankful that we have this program, and also to have these incredible creators like the three we have on today doing wonderful things with it. So with that, I figure that's kind of a good direction into our next segment here. We're going to be going through and showing off each of the projects that our recipients have brought today, where we can walk through all of the cool, nifty little things that you've done. Maybe you can describe a little bit about the process so far of making this project, and we'll start from there, and then we'll open up to questions and everything after that. How does that sound with everyone?
Right.
It's good.
Awesome. Fantastic. Well, then let's start with you, Elena. Let's dig into the wonderful, wholesome, incredible project that you've brought for us today.
Yeah, I can give a bit of a here. For wholesome, it's really important to capture real life information, and that's sometimes not really easy with game design, right? Because games have to be fun as well. But we really wanted to have all the real plants in there. We wanted to have to deep dive into how do you identify a plant in real life, and how can we design that approach similarly in the game. And there's a lot of things, that you just notice that when you implement them, it's like, oh, how do we manage that balance between fun and learning? But I think we can jump into the video. And I think one of the things that was very important from us from the start was to have a fun character creator, something that could do crazy things. This is just the beginning of all the hairstyles and options we will add to the game, and just allowing people to have, glasses and hearing aids and all kinds of piercings as well, and just different kinds of colors for hair and fringes and eyebrows. It's just supposed to be fun to make your character, and we want to have a lot of representation in there as well. So the game is about nature. So for me, it was really all about moving to actually being an Unreal Engine had such a massive impact on our art style. We were really able to know what we want to do once we started with Unreal, and we actually downloaded some interesting marketplace asset, and we're the sky that we're using is actually the ultra dynamic sky. But that worked so well, and so that's actually had a huge impact on our game development. If you pause that here, that is actually our foraging minigame. So we have just done this, just finished that recently. I made it even better than it used to be. So now you have all these cards for these different plants that pop up, and you can flip it around and really look and dive in deeper on what makes this plant, this plant. So what do you have to look out for? So based on this, actually right now, you will be learning that how to identify stinging nettles, which I hope almost everyone knows already, but you might not know that you can make an amazing stinging nettle syrup with this plant, and then you can make stinging nettle soup and stinging nettle pasta and stinging nettle pesto. So all of these recipes will be inside the game, and inspire people to maybe recreate them at home. There's no poisonous thing that looks like stinging nettle in the world, so that's a good thing. But if you want to keep going the video, we had to do a lot of thinking about, how do we handle it inside of Unreal? How do we spawn foraging items? How do we make sure we respect the honorable harvest? So players not just taking everything they see, because we also have a lot of poisonous things, right? So we want them to think more about what they actually pick, because there's a lot that can go wrong with real life foraging, and that's all going to be integrated into the game. And so you'll learn about lots of plants, lots of recipes, and real life crafts. But yeah, for me, Epic Vegagrant was an amazing opportunity to actually get to this point, to set up this area, to improve that foraging core loop, dive in deeper into the foraging minigame, and that was all part of the grant that we've gone.
Yeah, which is just incredible. I know I already mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I think the style that you and your team have managed to create so far is just adorable. It gives me so many happy, warm, fuzzy feelings to look at. It's just the cutest. I mean, that character creator, like you said, there's so many different options, so much diversity in there, and I I'll probably end up spending too much time just playing around in that alone, honestly.
Yeah, even with this limited amount of hairstyles that we have or colors, you can spend quite some time there. And we even recently put in like a way to create different colors for your hair, so you have like an upper hair color and a lower hair color. But yeah, as I said, Unreal Engine like just completely decided just made us realize this kind of art style vision that we wanted to have. And I know my artist just absolutely adores working with Unreal Engine and material nodes, because I remember in the very, very, when I created my first prototype ever right after uni, I did it in Unity and it was dreadful. It looked so ugly. So ugly, honestly. And then moving to Unreal, putting in the ultra dynamic sky, bam, like we knew how it's going to look.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's absolutely beautiful. I truly, genuinely love it so much. There's little bits of this that I could just take a screenshot and have as my background and just open my computer and feel happy every day seeing something like that. I do have a couple questions for you since obviously nature and making sure that it's educational is a huge part of this. I was wondering if there was any particular thing that kicked off this project to begin with. Was it just a general love for nature that you had, or what started this whole project for you?
It was actually me starting to forage. I went for my first foraging walk with my parents, who also had just started it since my dad retired, essentially. So they had this free time and they went out and foraged, and I was quite concerned. So I was, okay, I'll go with you to keep an eye on you eating wild mushrooms. And then on that same walk, I had so much fun. I found so many different, mushrooms. I learned a lot about them, inspecting them. It's like a detective game / treasure hunt. And on the way down, I was like, I've seen mushrooms and plants in Skyrim and other games, but they always have these fictional names, or maybe half fictional names. Sometimes they almost look like the real thing, but not really. So you can't trust it to look like the real thing. And now it's like, why not do that? Like, that seems so simple. I mean, we have all these cooking games, and they might have the almost right, but they don't give you the step-by-step process on actually how to make this thing. And that's what I want to do. Is I just felt like that should have been done before. And well, if someone has to do it, then it's gotta be me. I'm gonna do it. And then I set up the company and recruited my sister, who's creating all the character art and the plants, and then her best friend is doing all the other environment art. And they have been like tremendous. And then I've got programmers on board, and then since then we've just essentially been on a roll.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it looks like you've made some really incredible progress so far as well. When did you start creating this project?
So that was early 2021. Like that's when we actually really were able to put down some code and not just like some rough art. And yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, that's some incredible progress for that amount of time. I thought it would have been a lot longer than that, seeing how much you already have in the game and how solidified the style and everything is. That's really an impressive amount of work for that amount of time.
Thank you. I mean, you can always check out our TikTok. I'm posting almost 3 times per week. So we have an amazing little town environment that looks like a little bit of Italian / British coastal town. And then we already have some forest environments and are now building some much more interesting, diverse biomes. So yeah.
That's awesome. Very, very excited to see how this continues to
Thank you.
grow. So,
you.
if you don't mind answering, of course, at what point in the project did you decide to apply for a mega grant, and what kind of what started off that decision for all of you?
For me, I mean, I essentially I think we applied around the end of the prototype stage because we wanted to create the vertical slice. But of course, the application process takes a bit of time. And so we were essentially at the beginning of the vertical slice milestone and then used the grant to finish that. And I mean, Epic Mega Grants, I mean, it's already in the name. I don't know. I mean, I read it and I was like, oh, this sounds great. So, I mean, it's as an entrepreneur, I mean, as a business owner, I'm always looking for, grants. But especially being validated by Epic Games, that was big for me. So that was like a big thing. So I was like, okay, I need to get in front of Epic, just get feedback. If it's not successful, I get a lot of it out of it in terms of how can I improve, or maybe it's not just at the right stage yet. And yeah, I think it's an amazing grant program.
Awesome. I'm so glad it was able to help you. I really, it makes me feel so good to know that stuff like this is helpful to creators like yourself who are just chasing this passion project, which is incredible and very unique. And again, I'm just happy that we can help kind of facilitate even part of your journey.
Oh, thank you. Absolutely. I've known a few more other developers who've received it, and they are all working on amazing things. And so are the people in this course. I think this is a really unique program that is just enabling, your developers and your community to do more. And so,
Absolutely. Do you personally feel like because you had a prototype that helped you personally in the application process, kind of having that almost like a proof of concept sort of thing?
I bet it was useful, yeah, because we already had the art style, right, and just showing off a few visuals and showing our ambition that we wanted to become or create, with Unreal, one of the most beautiful and accurate nature environments. I think that did help, but I also think that it's something that we didn't do in the beginning is invest in concept art. And if we had done that, and if we had had more of this key art, that would have been probably fine as well, because it's just important about communicating this is what we're going for, and we know that we can make it happen. And I think Unreal is fine with taking that trust, this plunge, I suppose, in a bit, as long as maybe the market and the audience is right, or as long as there's a community impact on Unreals, or just general educational impact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I agree. I think having that cohesive vision, that very clear cohesive vision is very helpful for being able to envision what's going forward there. Christian, were you just agreeing with that, or did you have a point to add in there? You're muted, I think. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was just waving to people who were DMing me on Twitter.
Oh, awesome. No worries. Happy to get everybody included in here. So hello to everyone else as well. But yeah, that's awesome. That's such a great story. I'm blown away by the fact that you started that soon. I really thought the project was going on for a lot longer than that. So absolute endless praise from me to you and your team for everything that you've been able to accomplish so far.
Thanks. I'll tell all of them. They'll be very excited.
Please do. Such fans. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for walking us through a little bit of your project and telling us some about your journey and how it all started. And again, very excited to see where it goes from here. I will be following this project very closely. I can personally attest to that.
Amazing. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, next, Haz, I think we can take a moment now to dive a little bit further into the wonderful projects that you've been working on as well. Would you like to kick us off here and show us some of what you've brought?
Sure, why not? Since I'm here. Well, firstly, it's always going to be that one guy. Well, firstly, a little background on how this project happened, right? Like, as I already said in my intro, I'm a feature filmmaker. But when the dreaded pandemic hit, you know, obviously from a filmmaker's perspective, it's very nerve-wracking because you're like, oh, this thing's going to be over soon, right? And it didn't get over soon. It kept going on and on. And as a filmmaker, you're like, I got to stay relevant because, you know, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's indie filmmaking, regardless, as a content creator, if you're not constantly making content, you could very easily fizzle out. And that's every filmmaker, every artist's worst nightmare. So we had already been using Unreal Engine to do previs for the feature film. And I remember doing these previs and showing them to studios in Los Angeles and various Hollywood execs. And they all assumed it was a first pass animated film. Because previs has gone such a long way from what it was before, where it's just grayscale T-pose people sliding along the tech this. It's now like literally like animated films. You see the stuff that, you know, that the Third Floor are doing, for example. It's like mini movies. So when the pandemic hit, you know, kind of like this bulb in my head went like, why don't we just like extend our previs and really spend some time, put the bells and whistles in and really make an animated feature film. And we've done a couple of shorts. We did one called Battle Suit. We did one called Mutant Year Zero based on the video game, which was a sizzle reel. And we got some feedback. But when we started telling people that, you know, we're going to go make an animated feature film, the response wasn't what we thought it would be. It was more like, are you freaking crazy? You're making an animated feature film in a video game engine, like 93 minutes, thousands and thousands of shots. Yeah, right, whatever. Like, whatever you're smoking, like, no. And that really got us a little bit. So me and my amazing collaborator, Andrea Tedeschi, who's like my head of CG at the company, and Paula Crickard, my amazing business partner, we're like, look, we've got this script lying around. You know, when you, as a writer, you write a bunch of scripts, right? Or you come up with a bunch of ideas. Some of them are like, no one's ever going to finance that, right? And when we decided, like, what film should we make as an animated, like, to respect the animation medium, we picked one called, it was originally called Brother, and then it became Rift, which was about multiverses that had physics, gravity bending, defying action sequences that were unshootable, which would cost millions and millions of dollars. And we're like, well, let's make that into an animated film. So around October 2020, we did a proof of concept, and we started showing people like what this would be. And I was like, whoa, this is friggin' like, what? You guys are doing it? And here's the thing, guys. We didn't go around saying, oh, this is a proof of concept and we're looking for some money. Because you know what happens. You go through that whole journey. Well, we go through development and all of that stuff, and just to get a no, right? So we just said, hey, we're in production. Here's 10 minutes of dailies straight out of Unreal. Rough, but, you know, we're in production. All of a sudden, that conversation is different. And eventually, like, we realized, me and Andrea realized, actually, you know, I can't do all the shots. Andrea can't do all the CG. We're going to need some help. So we saw the Epic Mega Grant program. In fact, when we started applying it, the Epic London's Innovation Lab was being built. So we got in touch with Ben Lumsden and Alistair Thompson, who are just amazing mentors and supporters of like what we do. They kind of said, look, you should go for the Epic Mega Grant program and just really just show what it is that you're doing in the engine that is different. And what we were doing different in the engine wasn't the fact we were making an animated feature film. It was more the point that we were building tools. Well, Andrea was, not me, Andrea was building the tools to allow me as a director to have hands-on control of everything in the shot, like I would do on a film set with the cameras, the lenses, the choreography and everything, and then bring on artists afterwards. Flash forward, just close to under 2 years, like, you know, December last year, or last month, we finished the movie. In fact, let's see the trailer so you guys know what I'm talking about.
Going home, Max. You and me.
You and me.
Keep your fire away from the asset.
Run!
He's dying, Leon. He's been leaping from reality to reality, trying to find the one in which you do save him. And he won't stop. even though it's killing him. He won't stop till he finds the reality in which you succeed.
It's not gonna be this one, all right?
The next time he riffs, he will die. Max. What did Leon promise?
To never let anything happen to me.
Oh my goodness, chills.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's a very emotionally charged movie, despite all the adult animated violence in there. And this is an adult animated film as well, which is another kind of like eyebrow moment, raise moment, where like, so wait, you're not just making an animated film, you're making an adult animated film, like, you know, in the vein of Akira meets The Raid, right? And which was essentially the pitch that got everyone excited. So, and then from there, you know, we started speaking to Ben and Alistair at Epic London about, you know, how do we go about with the mega grant? And yeah, they were super helpful. Obviously, they can't tell you how to apply for it. But what was really interesting that we found about the mega grant process was the fact that it's a very simple form. It's not like tons and tons of things you have to put in. So for me, the challenge was that, I've got to be very succinct on what it is that I'm pitching and really show stuff that really showed. So, you know, we showed the test sequence. We showed some behind the scenes of how we're using Unreal. We showed some video footage of like some of the tools we were developing to allow, you know, the concept of being a hands-on director in Unreal Engine to work in real time. And we kind of packaged all of that up with as much references as possible. And it's kind of like, and the other thing also is we were talking to other financiers. But just so you know, we were fully financed, by the way, to a point where we didn't need the Epic Mega Grant in order to make the film. So what I'm trying to say is that it was not like, if we didn't get the Mega Grant, we can't make the film. But what we were very specific about was the Epic Mega Grant would allow us to scale up. You know, instead of this movie taking 4 years to get made with just like 3 people, you know, we were able to scale it and bring on like people like Gabriella and Ace Rowland, a bunch of people to help with the movie and really take it way further than I could do on my own or with Andrea. And that really helped. But also we wanted to kind of give back to the community as well. We wanted to spend some time creating videos, show it online. I mean, the other funny thing is, guys, like this was screened in Vancouver at Sparks Animation Festival, and people were in the audience. I'm like, how'd you know about this movie, by the way? Dude, we've been seeing posts about this for like 2 years. So like we've been following this. It really shows social media really helps. And obviously, you know, the Epic Mega Grant like community has been really great with pushing it out there for us. But like, you know, the process was actually really easy to apply. It was really, the hardest thing was in my mind. What do I have to show to make this feel unique and stand out, and not to say, hey, I need some money to make a movie, because I understand Epic are not film financiers. You know, they support creators and artists that are doing something different with Engine. So that was the hardest thing. And I would advise anyone to really think about that, you know, what it is that you're doing special in the Engine that you feel that would warrant an Epic Mega Grant. And you know, on that note, like, you know, a lot of filmmakers ask me, what's it like directing a show in Unreal Engine? Is it just you on a computer? Isn't it boring? Isn't it lonely? I'm like, actually, no. You know, I have a VCam rig at home with an iPad. I'm shooting. You know, I block my shots out. I'm collaborating with all my artists worldwide. In fact, you know, I want to use this time to actually bring up a picture of the team, just so you guys know, you know, just some of the hardcore members of the team that were involved in making this amazing movie with me. You know, like people like Alex Kong in Montreal. And by the way, people like Mark Cheng and Gabriella, you know, we communicated via the virtual production group on Facebook. When they saw about the Epic Mega Grant that, you know, that we were awarded, they're like, how can we come on board to help? You know, this is great that you got an Epic Meg grant, and we love the project, because obviously we promote a lot about the project. So it's not just really about the money, it's also, like Elena said, having that level of like validation from Epic kind of makes everyone else want to be part of your project after they see, oh, you guys are serious, you guys are making this movie, you guys are not just going to do something and then not finish it off, right? Which a lot of artists do. So and that allowed us, and we're able to bring on people like Sam and Ace, who's this amazing motion capture artist, and obviously Miles came on, and Robin, and all those amazing people. But yeah, the Epic Meg grant really helped facilitate these lovely people you see on the slide here. So to answer the question that everyone keeps asking, what's it like? What's an everyday moment like for a director working in Unreal? Well, to answer that question, I actually recorded like a 12-minute video breaking down my process. So let's take a look at that.
Okay, everyone, I'm going to give a quick breakdown, a very quick lowdown on pretty much how we put the movie together, all in Unreal Engine. So I'm going to load up the project, which is here, 4.26. That's right, we made this entire movie in Unreal Engine 4.26.2, actually, you can see up there. Okay, now that's loaded up, let's load up the level. So let's bring that over here. I've got two screens, so you're going to notice me dragging pins onto the screen right here. Quick thing, one thing that we did was we really had a good folder structure set up, and you can see that making a feature film, there's a lot involved, right? So, but the levels, we treated each location in the movie as a level. So we have Ava's office, Axion EXT, establishing shots, rooftops, so on. I'm not going to go through all of them because that will be a massive spoiler in the movie, but I'll load up one example, for example, and I think I'll load up the really cool heavy one, which is, I would say, the rooftop level. Okay, let's load that one up. Okay, now that the level's loaded up, let's have a look. So this is our main level here. We try to keep it quite optimized because it's a very stylized project. And I'm going to kind of go through a little bit on how we create the stylized look. But this is essentially the rooftops action sequence, which is pretty cool. So let's load up a shot. So what we did was we go to cinematics. We create a folder called cinematics, and we kind of label the shots as we would in visual effects. So like, scene 11, shot 10, and then 11, 12, 13, 14 in between. It's very easy to manage. But if we go into the folders, so again, each of the locations, each of these folders for the cinematic reflect the location, and the location is the level, right? So in our case, we want to have Axion Rooftop, which is here. So these are all the shots in the Axion Rooftop sequence and level. This is like every single shot in the entire movie that takes place on the rooftop is in here. So for example, if we go to, say, Ava's office, that's every single shot in the movie that takes place in Ava's office is in here. And the reason we did this is so that we had different artists working on different locations, and we had a level of consistency through all the shots that way. Now, I'm sure everyone else does it a little bit differently, but that's kind of how we did it on our end, to be able to manage all the teams working remotely. So let's go back to our level, which is rooftop. Let's go down here. No, actually, it's Axion Rooftop. There we go, Axion EXT Rooftop. And let's load up a shot. Let's load up. I'm going to show one that is a little bit crazy in terms of the action sequence. So I would say something a bit like this one. Let's load that one up. Okay, and I'm just going to run it so you get to see what it looks like, and then I'm going to show you my sequencer file. So let's go to the camera, and let's go here. So this is all running in real time. You can see here, lots of action. Boom, boom. Yep. There we go. Okay, so let's see what that sequencer file looks like. Wow. Okay. So actually a little fun fact about this, and this is kind of like reflective on how cool working in real time is the fact that this entire sequence I pretty much made it up in Unreal. Like in the script, it was like an action sequence takes place on the roof, and originally I had some shot lists drawn up to pretty much show like all the different cuts. But as I was doing it, I thought it would be really cool to just do it as a big one-up, because the whole idea of the movie is we're following this one character's journey throughout all the various multiverses. I'm going to try my best not to give spoilers here. But I really love the idea that the camera is kind of reflective of the character. So I thought it'd be cool just to keep with that character throughout and do like a single Children of Men style camera move, or Birdman style camera move. So let's see what that looks like in Sequencer. So if I bring my sequencer file here nicely, all right. Actually, you know what? Let's just move it up here so we see the whole thing. Okay, so this is my sequencer file for that shot. Make it like that. And so there's a lot of layers in here. So we have our animation layers for our characters. We have a lot of keyframes here, a lot of keyframes. So we do obviously all our mocap is brought in, so our Xsense mocap's brought in. And then what we do is we just like, if I just right click on one, I'll show you what one property is. So like this is one of the mocap sequences, one of the mocap we did. All here like that, Leon gun attack. And we do a lot of motion mixing as well. But we also, what we did was we actually, so like for example, this one, we broke up the characters in terms of animation channels into various channels basically. So this is Leon here, and in Leon, if you look at the animation file here, this is the default slot, and the default slot is the entire mocap, the entire body, action, and everything, right? But then we've got another track here, which is hand. So we created some sort of prefix in the blueprint that allows us to access just a hand socket on the character. And when we tag in hands, we can actually have the gun. So we can just have the hand movement of this here like that. There we go. So we can have a different body animation, but we can have the gun hand animation here. So, you know, if we would do it, I can motion mix that to have a different hand, like a fist or something, which is very good for like fight sequences, especially since we did everything very separately. We did Xsense body, not necessarily hands on some sessions because the budget's very tight. So we did hands separately. Like we use either iClone's Puppet tool for gesture, or we would just use the Manus gloves. Like Gabriella would have Manus gloves for us, and she'll just do a bunch of hands for us, and we'll just then map them back on here. But we also have a different channel for the facial expressions as well, or the mouth. So that would be on the head. So again, like if we just look at that, that's what that looks like. Okay, so you can see here if I zoom in, whoops, not too much. Okay, like that. There we go. You see here, you know, this is just the face. Actually, he's obviously saying something. I forgot what the line is, but he's saying something pretty explicit probably. But we're able to do the facial capture. So we use iClone to do the facial animation, and then we bring that in as an FBX, and then we line it up into the socket, which is called head, and then therefore we can swap out facial expressions. So that's pretty much how all the animation for all the characters are done in this movie this way. We go down a bit more here. We got that stuff like the helicopter here. We can control whether the door is opened or not, and they're all skeletal meshes. So, I mean, we even have lights as well, so we can drag lights in. So the way we work is we light the level in a certain way, which means that, you know, we have a base lighting for the level, but then all the individual shots will have their unique lighting, like, you know, the lighting will be specific to the SWAT team or the characters, or we may want to light the character's face in a certain way, like around here, for example, because we want to see a bit more highlights. And we wouldn't do that in the level, we just drag and drop that in the sequencer, and then we'll manage that on a shot per shot basis. Also, like, I think the characters also have different lighting channels. So let's have a look. Let's type in channels. There you go. So there's different lighting channels. So like lighting channel 0 will be like the entire environment lighting. But if we had a specific spotlight just for the eyes or just for the face, we don't want it to affect anything else, then we put it in channel 1. So lighting channels really helped us out massively on this, because it meant that we can have different lighting artists working on just the character stuff and the lighting artists working on environments, or something I would go in and want to tweak stuff, or if there's a muzzle flash that's going past the face and we want the muzzle flash just to affect the skin, we could do that as well. So there's a lot of control having this kind of way of working. And, you know, as a director, especially a hands-on director, I pretty much like have control on literally everything. So I can have my thumbprint on literally every single shot just by doing the tweaks, as opposed to writing long notes for artists to do the tweaks. So, you know, I'd rather them do the stuff that I can't do very well, or can't do at all. So here's another example of the motion mixing here we did here. If I just like zoom in. So you can see here we got an animation of someone, the knee signaling, and then we motion mix to running, then we motion mix some kung fu. And some of these also weren't even like mocap that we did. Some of these mocap, we actually bought mocap libraries from the marketplace. Amazing mocap libraries out there. And in the movie, we've credited a lot of the asset packs we use. Even though we don't use them vanilla, we still credited them because, you know, without those asset packs, we wouldn't even have something to start with to block the shots with. But this gives you an idea of the amount of motion mix that we go from soldier, knee pad kick to death flying back, and this entire thing here. So now that you've seen this motion mix structure and how we've put this together, I'll show you what that actually looks like. So let me see if I can just show you at the same time. There we go. Like this. So if we just see what is the SWAT team that's getting attacked here. Have a look. This SWAT team here. Okay. So the one that's highlighted in yellow, that's the one called the motion mix, right? So if we go all the way from the beginning, let's see what that SWAT guy's doing. There he is. So that's in the knee animation, and he's running. Now he's in run animation, and now we motion mix him getting hit, and we motion mix him getting killed. There he is again. And also what we did was we did a kind of like a bit of a low budget trick, like low budget filmmaking. Sometimes, because all these SWAT teams look the same, right? Sometimes, if it's the same SWAT team being used twice. So like if he's getting killed here, so you can see here, he's getting battered and he's flown off the screen over there, right? So he's flown off the screen, right? Now, if we watch carefully, he's actually back up, but you don't realize it's the same guy. You think that's just another SWAT team, and he also gets killed again. So that allowed us to save on memory management. Even though it's a movie and we're rendering it out, we kind of want to be working as much real time as possible, like 60 frames per second. So we did a lot of trickery, where we just do the typical swap and just reuse a lot of those characters again, because once they go off frame, they're off frame, right? But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how we actually did a lot of this. And then we have things like explosions going off and bullet hits, like muzzle flash, triggering off the muzzle flash. So if I just click on that muzzle flash there, let's have a look. There we are. That's the muzzle flash. And we see where that is in sequencer. There it is here. And you can see here in sequencer, I've actually timed when it deactivates, when it activates, when it deactivates. So I have a lot of control. And the reason why I think as a director, hands-on director, to be able to put a movie like this where I control every single shot is because having an editorial background helps. And I think to be able to work in sequencer and treat it like it's an editorial timeline, it's so much more easy to get your head around sequencer, and just really treat it like you're a composer and this is your orchestra, and you can do everything in sequencer. Like my day-to-day on this movie was literally living in sequencer. I also want to do a bit of a shout out here. These amazing fire elements were actually from Action VFX. I mean, big shout out to the Action VFX guys for helping us out on this movie in terms of providing those elements for us to use in real time in Unreal. And that, my friends, is how a shot is put together.
Awesome.
Awesome.
It's a bit in depth. It's a bit in depth.
It was great, though. It's really awesome being able to see kind of a peek behind the curtain at the process that y'all are using for some of this. And there are a couple of really nifty little tips and tricks that you hid in there too, like repeating the usage of the different SWAT members and stuff as well. That was a tricky one. That was a good move there.
It's
so
cool actually
in that case.
Impressive they managed to do all this with such a small team. And you even got some really good names there, like you had in the beginning, from the producer of Rambo. And I noticed you even had, because I recognized the voice, and then I saw it in the credits, Jane Perry.
Returnal.
I recognize her because she was in a video game I was working on, Returnal, and she actually got a BAFTA for that. She did amazingly. And then I was just like, hey, I know that person.
Well, Jane worked on my first movie. Yeah, Jane worked on my very first movie, The Beyond. That's how I knew Jane. And then Jane went and started doing a lot of video games, amazing work. And when I needed someone that had motion capture experience, but also was just super calm and so lovely to work with, I'm like, it's got to be Jane. So in fact, I didn't even realize she was working on Returnal until midway through the movie. She goes, yeah, I'm working on this game called Returnal. I'm like, what? So yeah. So, and it's super awesome that she won a BAFTA and so deserved. And I'm just lucky to be able to work with such great talent like Jane.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, it was, well, first of all, incredible project so far. Even just from the trailer, I wish you could have seen chat. They were all freaking out. They're like, oh, the drama, the action, it's really, it looks great, especially considering that it's like you said, I don't see a lot of full animation movies that are, for adults that aren't centered for teenagers or younger. So it's a very ambitious project, and it looks awesome so far. And also, it's kind of a side tangent, but the music was also so good.
Well, actually, the music is done by a guy called Roman Rapak from Wristband, and Wristband is also an Epic Mega Grant recipient. So there's a bit of crossover between Mega Grant recipients helping each other out. There you go.
Full circle, yeah. Awesome. Well, that is genuinely incredible. I love how it looks so far. I want to ask for spoilers, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna just wait for it to come out and enjoy it. And
I'll send you a
full-fledged
screener,
glory.
Tina. I'll send you a screener. Don't worry.
Yes. Thank you. I do have a question about the project itself. So the story is very, very unique. I really enjoyed the little snippets that we got. I was wondering if you had any particular inspiration behind just the general direction that you were taking it.
Sure. Well, there's two things. There's a personal inspiration, and there's also the pop culture inspiration. The pop culture one, obviously, I love time repeat movies. I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan. I love the movie Edge of Tomorrow. I love Groundhog Day. But I also love Japanime. I grew up watching Japanime like Ghost in the Shell, Akira, hence the poster behind me. All of those things I grew up watching, like Appleseed and so on. So I'd always had in my mind, how do I fuse the two together to tell a story? Because the thing about manga stories is of course, they're excessive violence. There's some kind of really deep, thoughtful moral behind all of them, right? With Akira, it's very touching as well. But also, back in my early years, I spent a lot of time in hospital because, I was sick and I spent a lot of time in hospital. And I always have this thing, like, always imagine, being the filmmaker, I imagine what it would be like if this, like, if I had to break out of the hospital, and I'll make my way through the corridors, and I'll just kind of map out what an action sequence would look like. And there was this movie, I don't know if you guys have seen, it's a Hong Kong movie by John Woo called Hard Boiled. There's a sequence where it takes place in the hospital. Those are the kind of sequences that was in my head while I was lying in bed in hospital. So when it came to putting the story together, I kind of like the idea of what would someone do if their little brother had special abilities but knew that they're being experimented on? If you had the ability to break him out of hospital, what would that be? So that was kind of like the driving force behind it. And then, we bought Stavros Pambalis, the writer, to come on and actually write it, because I can't really write a script. I write at necessity, although nothing gets greenlit. But, collaborating with Stavros and Paula Crickard, my business partner, also contribute to the story as well to make it very emotional, make it character-driven, because you can be so easy. The thing about working in Unreal, the only con, well, I wouldn't say it's a con, but the only downside of working in Unreal creatively is that it's so awesome to work in Unreal. That's the thing. So you end up like putting all kinds of action sequences. You want to move your camera around. You do whatever you like. I'm in real time. And sometimes you just forget it's story is important. And Unreal facilitates the storytelling process.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will have to take that little information and jot it down and hand it off to our devs, because I think they're going to love the idea that the worst thing about Unreal Engine is that it's too cool. So definitely going to have to pass that on. I know that you did mention earlier about how when you were trying to get your movie greenlit and all that, you were specifically wording it as "we're in production and here's what we have so far," sort of thing. Do you have any other bits of advice or things that you think helped your project in particular stand out when you were applying for the Mega Grant?
100%. Already by applying to the Mega Grant, saying that we are self-financed. Myself and Paula Crickard, who owns the company, we made a movie called The Beyond, which made profit. I know, right? An indie film made profit. So with the profit, we put it into the company to keep making movies. So we were self-financed, which is already a big risk. But the thing about that is having skin in the game, which is like the Hollywood term, having skin in the game, and which I'm sure Ellen and Alan, you could probably relate. You can most definitely relate to being business owners yourself. Is putting your own money is very, very scary. It's very, very risky, and you're up sleepless nights thinking, "Am I doing the right thing?" And I'm like ringing up Paula, "Are we doing the right thing? Are we crazy?" But you've got skin in the game. So I would advise people if you are looking for financing, usually it's not usually the best place to be in where you have nothing, no financing, but you just have a script and a pitch, and you're saying, if you give me money, this will be amazing, because it's such a high risk. Every investor, unless you've made like an award-winning movie before, or unless you have like a big name like Angelina Jolie or Brad Pitt that's signed up to be in your movie on the condition you get finance, which is traditional Hollywood filmmaking, it's very, very hard. So what we did was we're like, look, screw it. We're gonna put some skin in the game. We're gonna finance. We're gonna go into production, right? Which is how this goes, right? We can cancel anytime. It's only me and Paul are the producers, right? There's no other producers on board. But we started talking to people at Reallusion, and again, similar thing with Shine. We needed to find a way to do animation, because I'm not an animator. I'm not a Pixar level animator. We knew we had a lot of motion capture. We also knew that we couldn't use head-mounted face capturing, because it would just be a little bit uncanny valley. We wanted to keyframe a lot of the animation. So Reallusion was amazing. They came on, we applied for their pitch and produce program, and we got that grant. So, having some grants, having some tech sponsorship as well, like people like NVIDIA came on board. And all of these things, by the way, with tech sponsorship, it's not like, hey, give me your hardware, I'm gonna make something cool. You got to give a lot back in PR, in a lot of PR stories, literally giving early access to your movie. Like a video game, which is kind of unheard of in the film industry. You never do early access in your movie because it's very dangerous. But for us, we're like, it's the only way for us to not only change up the game in how movies are being made, like even the way we did the animation. We didn't do storyboards or animatics and stuff like that. I had a shot list. I had the characters. I started blocking the shots out of characters, as long as the skeleton's the same. And then Andrea, every few months, would update the mesh. And because it's the same skeleton, I can continue working. No one's waiting for each other. Whereas traditional conventional animation, you got to go all these various pipelines, sign them off. And then if you try to go back, you're going to have some really serious words of your line producer, right? So all of that we shared with the Mega Grant. So I always advise people, like, have something already in place, whether it's financially or something in place that knows that your movie's going to go off. And then go to things like the Mega Grant and other financiers and say, look, we're already in production. We've got some financing, but we need help. That's a much easier route than saying we've got nothing, and if you don't finance it, this movie is never going to be made, because it's a very, very risky proposition.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great piece of advice. And I feel like it's also just good advice in general to not rely too heavily on one particular thing, especially if it is something you're incredibly passionate about and you want to make at some point, is not just putting I'm going to slaughter this phrase because I can't exactly remember it, but not putting all of your ducks in the same basket. Eggs. Not putting all of your eggs in the same basket.
I'm not sure you want to put all your ducks in that basket, but definitely the egg. But also, just to let you know about the financing as well, like, it wasn't just the Epic Mega Grant as well. Like, having the Epic Mega Grant, by the way, once we got the Epic Mega Grant, like, everyone can testify, there is a sense of like endorsement, or like, oh, Epic believes in your project. That's great. That was awesome. But we were able to get other equity financiers to come on and give a small amount of money. And that's how we got Yariv Lerner, the executive producer of Rambo and Expendables, because he was a fan of our work, and Paula Cricard is a post-producer on his films like Expendables and Rambo and so on, Hitman's Bodyguard. And what's interesting, he saw the first 10 minutes, is like, you guys are making an action movie. This in animation? Like, how much do you need? Because he already saw we had Epic and we had a lot of press out there already, and that it was already exposed. So that really helped. And then also we had Amy Garner, who's a long-term friend, financier of Paula and us. She came on and go, what do you need? Because you don't need to convince us you can make this movie. This train is moving already. How can we board this train? And that's essentially the mantra we had. And that really helped us get going, and we didn't stop. Nothing stopped us making this movie. Like, we're in pandemic. We're not going to go making a live action film any sooner at the time, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's incredible. I love what you've done so far. I am so excited for when it officially comes out. It's gonna be incredible. I just know it. I can feel it in my bones. My prediction. It's too good. Never mind. You can't do it. It's too good. We got to cancel the whole thing. Well, thank you so much for showing us this project. Also for showing us a little bit of an inside look on the process that you use for making it as well, and how you handle parts of it. I know that's going to be really valuable information, especially for our other filmmakers in chat. So that's a special one just for you guys. But yeah, thank you so much for showing us that. I personally learned a lot, and I've done very little with films. So it's always great when you can take in those little nuggets.
Let's see you make a short film, Tina. Let's see you make your shot. I can't wait to see what you come up with. I'm sure it's going to be awesome.
Okay,
what
all
you
right.
come up with.
It has to be about ducks now because, you know, with
And
that
eggs,
that
yeah.
slaughter of a phrase, I have to make some kind of amends for that. So ducks near you sometime 2025. Keep an eye out for it. Awesome. Well, with that, I think now we can also dive into our last project for the day, which is Alan's project that you've brought in that I'm also very excited to look at and explore a little bit. So how about you kick us off? Tell us a little bit about it and we'll get going with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll gladly introduce you a bit to the project. So it's what I'm making is a role-playing game. It's called Betelgeuse Alchemist, and I think it's super cool that we have different ways of presenting our project, and that the three projects are so different. We got the movie, we got two games, and the way I want to present the game is also a bit different because I didn't bring like a recording or anything. I just brought you the game. It's still under development, but it's playable actually. And so we decided that just Tina will play the game and I start talking over it. And yeah, should we just do that and hop in and I make the introduction while you play? Maybe we can lower the volume of the game a little bit while I do the introduction. First of all, I think what's different about me, for example, compared to Elena's game is I'm basically everything you see here is I made that as a solo developer. So I think many people in the chat can maybe relate that they start off making a game alone and you can actually get a lot of things done, I would say. So what you see here is first of all everything from me. I don't buy any assets. I didn't hire anybody for the music. Everything's the graphics, the code, everything is from me, and I only use blueprints. Actually, the whole game is made in blueprints. What you see here is, by the way, is the character creation. It's not as elaborate as the character creation that Elena has. You can choose your skin color, your hair, your gender. We also have a non-binary option. I always say we because I plan to expand the team actually at the moment, so I'll have that. Okay. You play this alchemist in Betelgeuse Alchemist, and you have a mixture of role-playing elements and a bit of deck building. We can see that later when we dive into the game a bit more. So yeah, what Tina's doing is just customizing her character how she wants to have him, and selecting the game mode. And I will continue talking about it a little bit later, but when she hits play, there will be an animated like intro sequence, like a cinematic intro, and I will be quiet during that.
Somewhere in the wilderness that once was New England, a dark ritual is cast. Meanwhile, nearby in Caribou Creek, explosion lights up the night. The survivors call for an alchemist.
Alrighty, so this was the intro, and what I didn't say is what's really important is the game, as you see it here, is actually playable. You can now today you can hop onto Steam. The game is called Betelgeuse Alchemist, and it's not in early access yet, but it's in the Steam playtest. So what you can do is you just visit the Steam page and click request access to the Steam playtest, and then actually, because I set it to be open for a certain amount of time, you will get access right away, and you can, everything that you see here, you can play that. So actually, it's a top-down RPG. When Tina gets started, we can see that a bit, so we get a little feeling of the game. So yeah, it's this top-down perspective, and it's a bit like, as you can see in the UI, it's a lot inspired by Diablo, but the big difference here is that you play this alchemist that randomly draws flasks from their back, from the cauldron that's strapped to the back, and so you don't always know which flask you get next. And to make a good composition in your cauldron is very important, because you don't know what you get next. So it's a bit like deck building. You put certain flasks into this cauldron, and then you randomly draw. And what Tina's doing here, she only, I mean, this is the tutorial level. This is where the game starts. She only has this explosive flask, and because she chose this the Sly Alchemist, this is the one that has this special throw. It summons this flask, it hurls up into the air and then hits the target, because the different alchemists interact with flasks differently. Like the bold alchemist has explosive flasks that explode right in their hand, so they are more like a melee character, and then there's also a ranged character. Yeah, so actually I don't want to monologue too much. I think we've seen a bit of the game now. What we can do is I can also show a little bit in Unreal Engine, like in the editor. I also have a stream running. If maybe someone from the chat has like questions like how do you do this and that, we can do that. But we can also talk about the game maybe a bit, or the process, or whatever you want to ask.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think to kick us off, my first question is, of course, what's the inspiration behind this? I mean, there's all this talk of dark rituals. The art style is very unique, very dark, twisty, and it's a very, very vision focused game, I can see for sure. So I want to know what your inspiration behind starting this all was.
Yeah, there are quite a few inspiration, and I would say a big one that's also quite obvious is the Tim Burton movies. It's like this Burton-esque look that's going on there. That's a big one. And what I share with what Burton does a lot is like the sympathy for the monster thing. So you have these quirky and strange characters, and they aren't necessarily always evil. And this is what's also in the story a little bit more. So yeah, Tim Burton is an inspiration, but also like classic horror movies, like from the 30s, like Frankenstein, The Wolfman, all this good stuff. This is I'm a big fan of that. So this finds its way into the game as well. And also folklore is important. Like you can meet this leprechaun character and stuff. It's I would say these are the big ones. Yeah, and of course now I just said movies, but of course, yeah, there are games. I mean, everybody says, hey, this game looks like Don't Starve. And I always think, yes, it is an inspiration, definitely, but does it look like Don't Starve? It's because Don't Starve is 2D and this game is 3D. And I think the big thing is that the standard character that you play, that are also used for key art and stuff, like this alchemist with the hair, he has the hairstyle of Wilson from Don't Starve. And this is why everybody said, hey, your game looks like Don't Starve. But of course, I agree, it's hyper stylized and it has this cartoonish look. So yes, it's a lot like Don't Starve, but I always, yeah. Maybe not as much as everybody thinks. I didn't. It's not the biggest inspiration for the game.
Yeah, I personally love it. I mean, my favorite thing so far has got to be the curly mustache. I mean, any game that has a curly mustache in it is already a pickup. Yeah, absolutely.
It's often very Burton-esque. Like everything has swirls, and sometimes I have to tone it back a little bit because the UI gets unreadable because there are swirly things where a line is definitely the better decision. But I put swirls everywhere, and yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously we are an alchemist of some kind. I know I get explosive vials, which is literally that's all I ever need is just explosions for everything. So I'm pretty much set for the rest of the game. But I am also curious about what in particular made you pick alchemy and having all these different kinds of flasks and that aspect of it.
Yeah, well, the alchemy aspect is well, there's the idea was to make a game where you interact with your environment through alchemy more than in many other RPGs. Because if you, for example, for example, The Witcher is a wonderful game, of course, and but he's also a swordsman, for example, and I wanted to put the focus more on the alchemy, and I thought then, hey, what can we do, or what can I do? For example, with flasks, you can throw them and things happen. Like they can explode, they can have icy explosions, for example, or you can throw it and there's a smoke cloud, so you can disappear. So we got that, but you can also drink them. This can increase your resources again, because we got multiple resources in the game, like life, and you got this mana bubble, obviously, and then you have this third resource that's called juice, that you can use to juicify your flasks and use them in a more powerful way. And this is also why the game is not called Battlejuice Alchemist. And the main character is also called Juice, so it's like this theme going on there. And yeah, and the other thing about alchemy is that I could bring in this deck building aspect, because I thought, wouldn't it be fun if the character has a cauldron strapped to their back, and if you like grab from your behind, you don't know what you will draw, and then you got this. Although it's an action RPG mainly, you can have these deck building elements, and this kind of came together quite nicely with the alchemy theme, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you have everything set up in Engine 2, and I don't want to deny the possibility of looking on the inside of the incredible stuff that you've brought so far. So I am wondering, if you don't mind bringing it up, and maybe, is there any particular part of the project itself that you are proud of, or that you particularly want to show off?
Yeah.
Because maybe it was a problem that you had to overcome and you're proud with how you got through it, or anything like that.
Okay. What I can show you something. I have to bring up the engine. There it is. Maybe we can switch to it, to my stream. And I think you can see it now. Actually, what I wanted to show, because you ask what I'm very proud of, it's always the thing that you're currently working on, and I'm currently working on base building. I mean, it feels like I'm doing quite a lot of things in this game. And I recently have been working on base building a bit. What you can see here is the first town that you visit after the tutorial level that you saw Tina play. What I wanted to show you is I recently added this tower crafting mechanism. And if there's questions maybe in the chat later, we can also pull up some blueprints and talk about it. So what you have here is the alchemist, and of course, like, he can chuck this potions, and for example, by the way, you can always zoom in and play it also in a different perspective, like in a third-person perspective. But this is more for like, if you talk to characters, then it's cooler to have it zoomed in, because you don't have a big overview over the world like this. And in the zoomed out mode, you usually have more control, where you throw your potions and stuff. See, I wanted to talk about the tower thing. So I added base building, and this is because we're an alchemist. We have our alchemy tower, and the thing is, you can build this tower, and you can summon it and bring it to the battlefield. Okay, so the thing is, you can here we go. The camera zooms out, and you can summon your alchemy tower. But what you see here, this is like a pretty poor alchemy tower, because it's only 2 blocks. But you can actually build it. Like, I mean, I just started working on it. It's not crazy elaborate, but and there are not all icons in there. But you can put in walls and stuff and start building your base. And whoopsie, I just have to zooming in. and it's can get pretty high. I have to. And also you can also build I could also build some stairs here and stuff, and you can then walk up there, and you can build these giant towers. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. And you build the space, and you can bring the tower with you because you can resummon it to anywhere on the battlefield. Of course, at the moment it's not yet connected to the resource system, so I can just freely build. I don't have to collect the necessary materials. Usually, you would have to collect wood, for example, to build something wooden, and to do that, you can. For example, burn down trees. You throw your flask at this tree and it starts burning. It also hurts you and enemies nearby. So this hurts me, and I go out, and then it doesn't hurt me anymore. And then it burns down and it leaves these wood and ashes. So I can collect some wood and ashes, and I could craft from that. And what we didn't see is actually, I mean, of course there are enemies. We didn't see that yet, I think. Also, my camera is rotated. This is why I'm walking into the wrong direction here. I just walk over there a little bit and show you some enemies. We have this mini map up here, but we also have this normal map. For example, here there's a couple of porcupines, and I can, of course, buff myself, or buff myself with this shell flask. So I'm buffed. I have this shell around me now, so I should be a bit more protected. And then you can throw flasks at the enemies. I have to re-equip this here like that. And oops. So I just throw some flasks at them, and then they get aggressive. This is a tutorial that pops up that shouldn't be here because we skipped the tutorial level. I can turn them off. So they get really angry, and I can enter close combat and fight them in close combat or in ranged combat. I decided for close combat now, so we can see close up what's happening, and I can kill off this porcupine, for example, with this burning flask. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling because you can see you can do a lot of things in the game already, and maybe to get back to I didn't want to make only a presentation about the game. But what I think what I showed you is that this is a solo developed project. Okay, it took me a long time to do it, but you can do all that yourself as a developer. And I mean, I don't even have a formal education in programming. I have a background in movies and animation and 3D stuff, and I picked up Unreal Engine, and it was so easy to learn the blueprint system, and I could do all these things that you can see here by myself. I mean, okay, it literally took years, but Unreal Engine is so enabling. It's it's just crazy. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. If you like, we can have some questions. If people have questions about the game, or want to see something, or we just want to talk a bit, that's also fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I have a couple of selfish questions that I will ask first,
Sure.
and then I'll take in a couple from chat too. But
Yeah.
I'm curious on what parts along in the creation process for your project did you decide to
Yes.
reach out to Mega Grants?
Oh yeah. So this must have been in 2021, I think, and I have to move my so I can look at you guys again. So I'm moving the window. Okay. And it was where I already had a playable version of Betelgeuse Alchemist. It didn't look as polished as this one, and I made a lot of changes after that, but I had a playable version that I could send to Epic, and I think this helped out a lot because, as Has said, it's if I just say I want to make this game, it's going to be difficult to stand out, I think. So this was the step. It was also maybe what I think what also could have helped a lot. It was in a time where I Also made a bit more like tutorials and stuff, and documented the game a bit more on YouTube, where I made more YouTube content. And I didn't have like a huge following or anything, but I talked a lot about Unreal Engine on YouTube, and also with the small community I talked a lot about Unreal Engine, and maybe that also helped. But yeah, that was the stage, I would say, like about Vertical Slice state where the game was playable and already looking pretty good, and this was kind of the stage where I reached out to Unreal. Yeah.
That's awesome. So yeah, this was something you'd already been working on, were already passionate about, had your already playable parts of it and all of that. Yeah. How long do you think you were working on the project before you did reach out?
About 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I've been working on the game since 2018. Not full time. I've been full time since the beginning of 2022. So full time for a year, but I've had been working on it for 3 or 4 years, part time, kind of. Yeah. I mean, this.
Yeah.
But you don't have to have like this is the big problem with this game. There's too much in it. It's like the thing. I mean, it's not too much, but it's not concise. It's like people often look at it and say, yeah. Well, what is this? Is this a role-playing game? Is this a deck building game? Is this a But I think this is what people like when they start playing. Once I get people to play, they always say, that's cool. There's so many things, and I want to enable players to express themselves in the game. And if you say, I prefer only close combat, you can do that. It's if you say, I don't want to get dragged into this close combat JRPG style, you don't have to. You play it like Diablo top down, and obviously you don't have to have all these things to apply for a Mega Grant. You just have, for example, if I think it would have been exactly the same if I just said, hey, I have this idea for an action role-playing game, and there is deck building in there, for example, or maybe even a better hook, or I have this idea for a game. It's like an RPG, and you always play an alchemist, and the focus is on alchemy. And here's this playable, very small version. Then this would have been enough, and you don't need 3 years to do that, especially not if you take this stupid thing and say, I want to make everything myself. I want to write the music. This is not necessary. I always say I do that, but I don't recommend it to anybody. It's so great to go to you don't have to paint your own fire thingies. That's so not necessary. You can buy amazing assets for $20 and use that. And I always say, people do use that. Why would you do it? I just don't do it because I wanted to learn a lot of things. And this was where it was not in the beginning, it wasn't like a commercial thing. In the first 2 or 3 years, I didn't want that to be a big commercial thing, and I wanted to do everything myself. Now I'm starting to change things by hiring people and getting people involved. I kind of always start rambling. What was the question?
Well, I actually like where we're going along so far, considering the fact that there is so much in your game. There's so many different things that you can do and ways that you can play it. Do you have any recommendation for describing a project like this if someone else were to apply for a Mega Grant? Like, do you think there is such a thing as maybe over-explaining and giving too much detail? And do you think it's better to kind of pare it down and keep to the basics of what the game is? How do you think would be the best way to approach?
I think that's a good, very good question, and it exactly rubs my nose into what I'm doing terribly with this game. It's, I think it's a bit the same as if you pitch to a publisher. I think it's. I mean, not with. Of course, if you pitch to a publisher, there are different interests, and there are more commercial interests. But yet, it's a good thing to have this elevator pitch or this great hook about your game. People have to be excited about your game, and you have to have a great hook. And this can be a lot of things, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel and do everything different. You can say, I'm doing X with Y, like I'm doing Elden Ring, but with rabbits. And that's fine. You don't have to, I'm doing Elden Ring with rabbits, but it's a racing game. That's a surprise. And, don't do too much, as I did. Just to do something that's that sounds cool and get people hooked. And of course, your execution has to be great as well. I mean, if you say I have this great idea, I don't think that Epic will choose you. I mean, you also have to show that you have something there, and that it is not only a great hook, but it's playable and it's fun. This is something I would maybe recommend. It's have a great hook. Yeah, have a nice, interesting thing that's that people say, oh, I want to hear more about it, and this is ideally in 1 or 2 sentences. And if this even ties into the visuals and stuff, that's a good thing. By the way, I don't know if everybody knows that, has already said this form for the Epic Mega Grants, that's really short and simple. That's so short and simple. I'm currently working with the German government, also has funding opportunities. That's like 60 pages that you have to send them, and this is incredible. This is and the Mega Grant, that's like 1 page. You can get this done. I mean, I don't recommend it, but you could get it done in an evening. You can fill it out, and you don't have to have like this giant stash of material. Of course, you also send in material. I would recommend maybe to send in more. And if people don't look at it, that's also, if the people responsible maybe won't look at everything, but it shouldn't be like super bare bone. You only have 1 screenshot or something. So maybe there should be a bit more to it. But actually, also, maybe I'm a bit speculating here. Maybe Ari can say something more about that. I don't know how he's involved in the process, but I know he knows the project quite well.
Yeah, definitely. I can elaborate a bit. So basically about tips because you mentioned like sending in too much. It's a good idea to put a lot of like what you want to show off, whether that's a video of the game, like Google Slides or whatever, PDF document, and even a video, is that if you put it all into, let's for example say a Google Drive folder or a Box folder, whatever online cloud storage you use, you can send a link to a folder that you can, because when we are when the Mega Grants team is reviewing the applications, they can take, we say, up to 3 months, and if there's a big a lot of applications coming in, can go a little bit over that. But when we're making an indie game, there can be a lot of difference between what we have now and what we have in 3 months. Those can be 2 different applications to when the Mega Grant team actually managed to see it. So if you have a folder that you've sent instead of like a hard link to a YouTube video, you can change it as the application is still waiting to be reviewed. So yeah, there's one tip.
That's pretty smart. Actually, you know what? I sent in a Google Drive folder, but I didn't touch it. I should have.
That's it. Go ahead. And if you do send in an application and you feel like, oh, I need to update it, you are free to just to email the Mega Grants team, and it's just megagrants@epicgames.com. So after you've sent in your application, you want to update it, send an email to the team, just explain your case. And like, we're all humans, and they'll just say, okay, we'll update it.
That's really valuable.
I want to talk a little bit about your game though, Alan, because one thing that I think I heard you say was you said that was all in blueprints, right?
Yes,
That's
it is. Everything's blueprint.
Very impressive. Yeah, so you have this game that is like, you mentioned like deck builder, RPG with a base builder and everything in it. And it's all made in blueprints without code. And I just think it's amazing that people are able to create a game that much, like, it feels very accessible that people can use a game engine. Because I keep getting this question, can I make a game only in blueprints? Well, there's your answer. There's like, the proof is in the pudding.
Yeah, I always, people always say that if you want to make a real game, you have to do it in code. I think you don't. There were like in the years I've been working on this, there have been a couple of incidents where I could have switched to code, or where it would have been an idea, but I thought about it a bit and I thought, how important is that to me? I can design around that. And so I could make it happen in blueprints. And the reason, my thought behind it was always because I worked, I switched from Unity to Unreal because of the blueprint system, because I liked it. So I actually, it has been a while, but I'm able to write code. But I don't want to. I want to use the blueprint system, and I always think it also makes it easier to do engine upgrades, because if it's all in blueprints, it feels like it's a lot safer to do so. I actually, it's funny. All the projects today, we are all in 4.26, I think. And last week I upgraded to 4.27. I already also made the step to 5, and it worked fine. We'll have to do some adjusting there. But I haven't decided yet if I want to switch to 5. But it's actually, this is such a long and a giant project, and just being able to convert it on a click, I attributed this a bit to working in blueprints. But as I said, I'm not the super pro programmer. So, but this is what I think.
I do want to say, like, even if you are doing code, it should also just upgrade over. It begins being hard if you're doing engine modifications, which usually for indie projects you don't need to do. But also one thing you mentioned is that you said we haven't switched to code yet. And that's just something I want to dispel immediately. It's like, it doesn't have to be either or. You can make a game that is 99% blueprint. And then there was this one specific use case where you kind of needed to dip your fingers into the code, and then it's totally fine. You have a single class with a single function, exposing maybe some functionality that is available to the code but not the blueprints, and just make it blueprintable. So your project can be like everything in blueprint and then one function because we had this thing that we couldn't do without it. But you're making it sound like you haven't had that need yet, right?
There has been the need once or twice. It has been a while, but I was able to work around it. I think it was something. Maybe in the very beginning, I had this thought: this has to be really a true isometric view. If you like the definition of isometric view, where you don't, I don't know how to say that in English, but where you have this very strict isometric view. And this was there were problems with the camera, and I would have used that. And then I thought about it. Who actually cares about if this is the legit isometric thing? It looks great, and then I, for example, just decided against this thing. And it worked out. But it has become. It's not that it's not possible, but it has become, for me, it has been this way like for years, and I decided, yeah, this works great, and it's. But as you say, of course, I could just do single functions in code, and it would always be fine.
It's as easy as clicking add, new C++ class, putting the name, pressing enter. There's nothing you need to do. The project will just automatically convert over to like be C++ capable, and it should just work out of the box. So don't be afraid of it. If it enables you, then just do it. It's not going to be that much more actually complicated to make the game. All of the workflows should be the same. You package the game the same and everything like that. Having said that, still that it is able to be only in Blueprint is amazing. Also, one thing I noticed when Tina was playing your game is that I noticed a little badge there saying for playtesters. And I wanted to ask, like, are you still looking for playtesters? For the people watching the stream, are they able to somehow like find out more about the game and apply to be a playtester?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, the game is on Steam. You can Google or put into Steam Betelgeuse Alchemist. You will land on the Steam page, and you scroll down, and there's this box, apply for the Betelgeuse Alchemist playtest. And you click the green button, request access. And actually, because I set it to open, not specifically for the stream, but in the verge of the stream, you will get access. You will get access.
You heard it here,
and you can play. I mean, this is what's so much fun. It's like if you really see people play, and the game has gotten so much better because I'm quite open with the game, with the playtesting and stuff, and it has become so much better after I saw and heard the feedback of people. You can design mechanics and stuff in your brain as much as you want. You have to see people play it, and yeah. So actually, yes, the game is open for playtesting. I'm looking for them. I appreciate talking about the game, people joining. There's a Discord and all this stuff all on the Steam page. It's all linked. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Please go do pick it up and play test it because it is genuinely so much fun. There are so many things in it that just feel so satisfying. I mean, even that bit that I played in just the tutorial section there, just blowing everything up right there in the beginning feels so satisfying. The little shake that happens, the way that you actually had the items, destruct is chef's kiss. It is a masterpiece. It feels so good to play.
Thank you. By the way, what I found so interesting is like that, for example, because I think I know a lot of things in Unreal Engine, and I could do nothing that you do. It's like we're both working with Unreal Engine, and you're doing. For example, I never opened the sequencer. I couldn't do anything you do, and this is such a diverse tool. That's super. It's crazy. It's just you can do. It's insane to me what you.
I don't think there's anyone at Epic that knows how everything in Unreal Engine works, even as evangelists.
Yeah, likewise, Alan. Like I was looking at your game, even Eleanor, like both of your games. I'm looking at, I'm like, oh my god, because I'm like a filmmaking guy. Obviously we're making a video game as well, but no way as complex what you guys are doing. I'm like, oh my god, the thought process. Oh my god, I don't even think that way. I think linear. Like going that way. You guys have to think all these variables that come in making games. So yeah, hats off to you both, man, making complex.
Yeah, absolutely. Which I think is another thing that I personally feel kind of lends credit to the Mega Grant program itself as well, is all of the projects that you've brought to us today are incredible, first of all, individually, but also are very different from each other. I mean, even though two of them are games, for example, your games are very different from one another in both style and what you actually do in it. And it's very unique projects. And then, of course, having an animated feature film is a entirely different industry, and even though they're all using the same engine, these projects are vastly different with vastly different outcomes, and the program itself supports all of those purely because you decided to use the engine that we all love so very much. So thank you so much for trusting us with your projects and trusting our tools with creating these passion projects of yours. Getting
that's the
nice
page
little
view.
Yeah.
When you want to apply for Mega Grant, you just search for Mega Grant anywhere online. It will take you to this page. You just keep scrolling, and you'll see all this awesome content made by people that want a Mega Grant. And you will then also see, yes, the perks program. You don't just get a grant; you get some extra stuff also from our partners. And then we have the frequently asked questions. I've actually noticed that some of the questions that have been asked in the chat have already been answered in the FAQ. So definitely go check them out. Lots of hints about what makes for a good application. Also, like what kind of criteria that we're looking for. And then lastly, once you are past the FAQs, you have a very, very sexy button that will take you to the form.
Yes.
There it is. Flying out.
Sexy button. It's the perfect color and everything.
And even though you're just on the edge, if you don't know whether you want to apply or not, click the button and check out the form. See what kind of things we're asking for, and figure out if this is something you want to, apply for or not. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
What
you miss every shot.
What we didn't talk about today is so much is what I think is super cool is this that you can also apply not with a film, not with a game, but with something that is related to Unreal Engine, maybe as a plugin or something. For example, I think it was almost the same day I got my Mega Grant. The story writing tool Arcweave, which I used to write my story, also got a Mega Grant because they are making a plugin for Unreal Engine to integrate that. And when I read that, I was like, oh man, yeah, of course they can apply for a Mega Grant as well. And it's so cool that they also received it. And also that all the three projects that we have here today, they are more or less stylized, right? And what Unreal Engine actually shines in is like realism. Also, not, but our projects show that that's not. But people often connect realism, like photorealism and stuff, with Unreal Engine, and there are amazing projects that do that as well. And that's even a whole nother thing that we today nobody brought to the table. And yeah.
But that's the stigma. Yeah, it's funny you brought that, Alan, because that's the stigma we got when we were starting to pitch, Unreal Engine projects, to make an animated feature. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's going to look like a video game." I'm like, well, Fortnite is very stylized. I would watch an animated feature film like in Fortnite style, but there's that stigma, it's photo-based rendering, PBR, so. For us, the hardest thing was actually stylizing the hell out of it. And that's what we end up pushing the engine, the way we built our complex shaders, to the way we built our textures, the way we modeled our characters, all of that played the big part in creating that stylized and pushing Unreal to do the stuff that it isn't known for, which is the photo-based rendering. So yeah, and also the other thing we haven't touched on is you can apply for more than one mega grant. You don't just apply for one and that's it. Even if you have projects, I've got friends that applied for multiple projects and they didn't get through. They didn't stop them. They just kept applying for different projects, and one of them did go through. So I think that's the beauty of it. It isn't like a one hit, one chance, and that's it. You can apply for multiple projects and multiple chances, and it's also down to timing and the relevancy.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I want to
actually,
expand
you
on that
can.
a
What
little
I
bit because I see a little bit in the chat also in the questions. People are saying, when should I apply? When is the best time? Because it sounds like a little bit they're afraid of, it might get rejected and then I blew my chance. Thing is, no, you can apply multiple times for the same project. So let's say that you apply and your project is a bit early on and then it gets rejected, which unfortunately happens a lot. Most of them don't get a grant, unfortunately, but of course, many do. And if you, for example, wait a year and you can prove that you've made significant progress and just try again, that's perfectly valid. It's perfectly fine. So you can apply every year if you want to during the development of your game, as long as you, of course, again, can show that you made some progress from when you last got rejected. Or even if you last got accepted. If you got a mega grant and you're still making progress to your project, whether it's a game or not, you can apply again and you might even get a second mega grant.
That's what we got. By the way, that's what we got. I mean, I didn't want to say it just in case I was bragging or anything, but literally that's what happened. We realized, oh my God, we need some help to get it over the finishing line. And I kind of sent a screener of the entire 93-minute movie, and it wasn't finished. But I remember sending it to Ben, Alistair, and Rob D. Figlia. I can never pronounce his name properly, but Rob D. Yeah, there you go. I wrote it down. And he was in LA, and this time they had to get a different mega grant committee to look at it, right? Because it's it can't just be coming from London. And they were like, "Oh wow, you're pretty much done. How much more do you need to help get it over the line?" And it wasn't really how much more you need. What do you need to do to get it over the line? And we kind of explained this, how far, what if we had additional money, we can get it done way in time. And and again, going back to the whole Hollywood ethos, we're not the only one making an animated feature film in Unreal. There are tons of other people. So there was a bit of if we get this little bit of finishing funding to get it over the line, that would really help. And for us, the thing that got it over the line was the fact that we also mentioned that we were making an offshoot, a spin-off video game simultaneously, because we love the pain of development. And and because we showed transmedia it was true transmedia, all the assets we built in the game were able to migrate into, we built in the film, we can migrate into the game. All of a sudden, that became an attractive thing. And I go, okay, well, you get a second mega grant because, you've got a lot of progress. And like you said, Ari, it's progress, but also showing what you've done for the last year and a half, really helps. And again, it's not quick, just so I'm sure we can all testify. It's not within 24 hours you get a mega grant. So that's why you shouldn't put your dependency on the mega grant, because it's a long process. They get tons of applications, and then it comes in. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally.
I think because you mentioned there, it helped you get over the finishing line. Sorry, Tina.
No, you're
good. That's one thing, is that what really helps with getting a mega grant is showing that your project is viable. What I mean by that is that you show that, this project is definitely going to happen. Because yes, sure, the mega grants, they are free money, but we're not throwing away money. Like, we want the money to, do something. We want it to help someone. We are. It's not just charity, like, because we succeed when you succeed. So it is actually in Epic's best interest that your project does super well. So if we see some projects that are like very viable looking and they just need that tiny little bit of extra edge to make it just that more exquisite, then those are the most likely ones to get a grant. So I like to tell people when they're asking for a grant, I'll say the mega grants, they're mostly kind of to add a little bit of wind under the wings of projects that are already flying, but not to get you off the ground. Because when you are applying, you should already, like, for example, for games, you should already have at least a playtest or a demo, or something that the mega grants team can play. It doesn't have to be very finished. It can be very, very early looking, because believe me, we are game makers. We are used to seeing games that are very, very work in progress. But yeah, you need to at least show that, hey, I can do this. I am working on something, and just show that it's viable. That's like one of the strongest points you can show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like in the same theme of all of this is, if anybody is thinking about applying for a mega grant, or they're just on the fence of doing so, but the only thing that has stopped you so far is that potential no, that potential rejection, know that that's literally the worst possible scenario, is you're just told no. It's not like if you send in an application and you're told no, like Aria said, you can apply again in the future after you've done more. There's not a blacklist where if you send in your project and we say no, we're like, all right, that's it, you're cut off. You can never speak to me or my son ever again. Like, it's not like that. You can apply however many times as you need to. And yeah, sorry, I was cutting someone off.
I was just going to follow up with to reinforce that as well. Being able to show progress is a valuable thing. And a lot of indie devs that I talk to, they're like, well, I need to wait till it's perfect. Well, guess what? It's never going to be perfect. But one of the big questions I get a lot on that vein is, well, how do I know when my prototype or my vertical slice or my demo build, like how far along does it have to be? And the thing to think about is what is that unique thing of your project that you're selling? What is the core, value proposition? If it is, for example, if you're making a physics-based marble game that's just doing the most amazing marble physics ever, then that doesn't really need to be arted at all, because the whole core of your game is around these physics. Now, physics should be very, very impressive. I don't know what you're doing with marbles that is so cool, but as opposed to that, if you're making more of a atmospheric exploration, visual storytelling game, then your vertical slice really needs to represent the vision for what that visual representation is going to be. So it's really dependent on kind of what your project is, what you're trying to showcase, as far as what needs to be in your demo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point.
Do you
Making
know?
sure that you're targeting
what's worse?
the core.
Sorry, okay. Do you know what's worse than applying and getting a no? Not applying when you might possibly get a yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'm gonna lay up at night thinking about that. That's gonna haunt me. I could make the rabbit racing game Elden Ring and be told yes, but if I don't do it, I might never know.
Someone's going to make that game. Someone's going to make that game, right? Someone's bound to make that game.
They have. Yeah. Same with now, we have to have a marble physics game as well.
Yes.
Like, we're just giving out free ideas at this point. Awesome. Well, if you're all open for it, we do have some questions from chat that I would love to dive into for the remaining time we've got here today. So we'll dive right in. I do want to start with one that I saw. This is a general question, and I'm going to throw it out to all of you. So anyone who wants to answer, or if all of you would like to take a chance to answer it, please feel free. But this is, I think, a great way to just kick us off with this is if you had one, and I know we've given out a lot already, but if you had one singular piece of advice to give to somebody who wants to try and have the most successful application possible, what would that one narrowed down piece of advice be?
Okay, I'll go first. I would say make your pitch come from your heart. This sounds cliche, but trying to write the perfect pitch, like this is a movie that's going to change the world of cinema, blah blah blah. It's not legit. It's not genuine. Right from your heart. The feedback we got from like people like Ben and Alistair was like, dude, we felt your passion. We felt you're genuine to wanted to make this film, not wanting to make this film, but needing to make this film. So if you make that come across the application, it's way more powerful than having the perfect grammar, written sentence or amazing looking images, because it's really about progress. Yeah.
That's a really, really good one. And actually, because I've heard the Megagrants team talking in similar vein as this, is don't fill out the application with things that you think the team wants to hear. Fill it with what you want to make, because it shows through.
For me, it would just be, take some time and boil down, exactly what you're trying to do, and think about what makes your project stand out. That's both an exercise in game development, because you're going to have to do that at some point if you're going to market and sell your game. You're going to need to be able to explain to folks who it is, whether you're trying to do a crowdfunding campaign, whether you're trying to pitch publishers, whether you're trying to get VCs, whether you need to go out and do AMAs. You need to be able to explain what your game is. And it's a good exercise from a game design and a marketing standpoint to sit down and be able to do that anyways. I definitely recommend videos are a great thing to submit with. It's, a lot of people have a hard time. I only have this many characters, and what do I type in there, and how do I explain this? Well, if you go out and look at especially go out and look at like some successful game Kickstarters, not the Kickstarters for like weird appliances, but the game ones usually have about a 10-minute video that's a good 2 to 3 minutes. That's the actual game concept pitch or the vertical slice trailer, and then 6 to 8 minutes about who you are, why you're trying to do what you're trying to do, how did you get to the place working on this project, and who's behind it. The developer story can be just as strong as the game, or the movie or the pitch or the plug-in. Who are you and what your story is can be very important as well.
Also, don't make the Megagrant team be the first team that sees your application. You can show it to other people, peers, other devs, any in the community, like check out our forums or even on Slackers, and get other people's opinions. They might point out something obvious that you've missed.
Absolutely. Big fan of peer reviews myself, so I completely support that statement. How about you, Elena or Alan? Either one of you have a particular piece of advice you'd like to give?
I would just mostly iterate what has been said, but like to bring it together in a way. So I'm just saying, for example, like I structure my application in a way that said, okay, what will I do visually? So what is the Unreal Engine helping me to achieve visually, and then what's my market, what's my audience? So that's the validation, essentially. What I achieved until now, and have shown in terms of that this product is needed and wanted. And then a third was how can I contribute to Unreal Engine as a community, and is there something I can do in terms of contributing to that part.
Sure.
I think, and I don't have anything to add there. I think everything has been said. Has been amazing points. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a really good point
absolutely.
when you mentioned
All great
contributing to
advice.
community, because that also adds bonus points to an application. It's usually a bit harder for games because usually getting a mega grant only benefits the games themselves, and maybe like they might think, oh, it also benefits Epic because it's a good showcase for it, of course. But if you somehow have a project that does benefit the greater 3D making community, that does give you some brownie points in your application. As an example, the biggest mega grant we ever given out, 1.2 million, we made that public, was to the Blender Foundation. Biggest mega grant because it's just a no-brainer. Even though it's not specifically for Unreal, yeah, you can make assets for any engine. But I think it is just such a good like force multiplier. It's such a great thing that benefits everyone in the 3D making community. Yes. But of course, having said that, again, don't try to bend your application into something that doesn't like fit you. Like if it is something that does benefit the community, like in Alina's game, then it definitely gives you brownie points, but it's not required. Take that into account also.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, because there, like we said, there's a huge variety of projects that can apply and receive a mega grant. So, and same like Alan said, if you're making a plugin or something that's not necessarily a specific isolated project, but something to benefit others, it's completely applicable. We've also, I believe, we've had some marketplace bundles and marketplace creators who have also been approved for mega grants as well, for similar reasons, because they're helping to make something to progress the community as a whole and help out with other people's projects as well. So there's a whole plethora of ways that you can contribute, but also still apply and see if you can, get approved for a mega grant. So don't feel like you are shoeboxed into any particular field or industry or project. It can, I think you should just shoot your shot, see what happens. Awesome. There's so many other questions, although weirdly enough, you all have actually been answering a lot of the questions through your other answers as we've gone. So it's not as many questions as it would initially seem.
We're efficient.
But yeah. I'm sure if you scroll through chat, it'll look like a lot, but there are a lot that have been answered just through natural conversation here. There was one that
I'll ask Alina one, and that is because you have in your game all these like really cool ways of identifying plants in real life. While your game is also quite stylized, which I imagine must be quite a challenge in itself. Like, how do you balance being stylized but still being realistic enough that people would be able to use this knowledge in real life?
Yeah, I mean, great point. The interesting thing is once you learn to identify plants and mushrooms, is that often it's a very specific shape. That's more, saying more about the plant than the texture. So that actually made it possible for us to have this very colorful, stylized art style, and at the same time really make sure that we make players aware of these very specific identifiers of each piece. With mushrooms, a lot of identifying is colors and the shapes of the stems and the shapes of the caps themselves, and if they have gills or pores. So actually, yeah, it was quite possible, achievable to just transfer that. But I mean, we have to do a lot of feedback loop, and I needed to create a big spreadsheet on these are the identifiers for this plant in this season, and so that my artist can look at that and then look at the plant, because my artists are not experts in foraging and they're not experts, biologists or anything. So I need to communicate well to them, these are the things that we need to look out for. And another process of that will be just letting our community of foragers also, just give us feedback on every plant that we put out and say, can you find something that's wrong about this?
I
Very
got a
clever.
quick question there. So if did you say there are also seasons? Is it like, so I think this is this mushroom. Oh no, it can't be because it's fall. This one doesn't grow in fall.
Yes, I mean, with mushrooms, that is very unlikely. But I mean, that's mostly because, I mean, there are some mushrooms that actually only grow in spring or well summer mostly, like for example morels. But the mushrooms that look very similar to morels or have a very similar harvest time as well. So, but yes, it is true that the models change, and we need to make sure that we switch out the plant models inside the blueprints triggered by the season, and then for some models, because they're part of the environment, we need all models for all 4 stages, and because they'll just change with the environment. So it was quite interesting to set that up.
Yeah. That's a really crafty way of going about that too, because I hadn't even considered that of different seasons affecting what plants would be available, or just similarities between different potential plants that are growing in the
Yeah.
season, but it wouldn't be the good one because the good ones are in a totally different season. So please don't put that in your stew, sort of thing.
Or they make it harder, because for example in spring you only see the leaves of wild garlic and maybe lily of the valley or autumn crocus, and they look very similar, but 2 of them are absolutely deadly toxic. But you can identify them, if you really learn those identifiers. Not even that hard, because in real life you have that that strong smell of wild garlic that will instantly help you identify it. But yeah, within the game, we have the spring model, and then the summer model will have the very unique flowers, which by that point you'll definitely be able to identify them because they are just completely different flowers.
Yeah, absolutely. God, that's so clever. I hadn't even thought of that. But what a neat little detail to have in your game. I don't want to take up. I could sit here and talk with all of you for hours and hours longer, but I promised I wouldn't make you sit here for 8 hours. So I have one final question for all of you. And then, of course, if you have any closing things that you'd like to say as well, please feel free to do so. But the question that I want to pose to all of you is, how do you feel you benefit the most from this whole Mega Grant experience? And of course, there's money, whatever, but I don't mean that. I mean, were there particular connections that you made along the way that have been very meaningful to you and your project? Has there been any interactions on maybe the forums or through the waiting process that really helped change and alter your journey so far? Things like that. Does anything stand out in those kinds of regards?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I
most
can say
definitely. I
something,
mean,
but you go.
you sure? You can go first. No, okay, I go. We're so chivalry. Look at that. Okay, so okay, mine's real quick. I mean, I kind of mentioned it already, but we were able to put together a really stellar team of generalists, people that weren't just specific to one thing, because even the way we approached the Mega Grant, we were very vocal when we got the Mega Grant. We're like, oh my God, we just landed a Mega Grant, and this has changed essentially our production life massively. And now we want to start bringing on people to help us. And because we were so open about the Mega Grant, obviously not the numbers, but also we kind of just a lot of people were DMing me saying, how do you apply for one? What are the process? And I kind of helped them out, but I kind of put that public on Twitter. We were able to get some really good, people like Gabriella came on and said, look, I'm going to help you regardless, and people like Mark Cheng, who I've been following his short films, now liking his stuff. He's like, dude, I'm a director, but I want to help you because the fact that you got a Mega Grant, I want to be part of your journey. And that's very touching, because the fact that, the Mega Grant kind of told the world that, we're serious about making a movie and we're serious about changing the way films are being made and making it very grassroots guerrilla, even when we're in a game engine as opposed to like using video cameras. That made a big impact. The other thing also is the relationships I built personally with pretty much everyone at Epic. Like every month I'm like meeting new people, and because of the Epic Mega Grant, like, you know, being very public on like who got awarded and so on, like I would go to places like SIGGRAPH, or I'll give a bunch of talks, and I'm meeting people at Epic, and I go, hey, you know, I look after the animation tool set. You know, I saw that, you know, you're doing an animated film. You know, maybe we could jump on a Zoom, and we end up doing loads of conversation. Like we were stuck so many times. Like there's one guy at Epic, I remember the first few months that I kept hounding this guy, Ben Kidd. He's the technical artist over at Epic London. I'm like, dude, you know, my blueprints are crashing. Like, you know, we're trying to do stuff in Sequencer, but it's designed for game, and Sequencer isn't rendering it. Blah blah blah. And it was just so nice to be able to go and talk to someone at Epic, knowing that they have our backs, and we're not just on our own trying to figure this out or going on forums and stuff. So I think that was a big thing, and also the relationship, you know, built with everyone, even the guys that pick in LA as well, you know, helping us like stay on track. And I even sent the, you know, versions of the film for review, like say, hey, give me some notes, which is like usually is a big no-no for like filmmakers, but I'm like, no, I want to get notes. You know, I trust Epic so much because they trust in me and my team in delivering this film. So you build a relation, it almost becomes like a producer relationship, but not the typical producer where they want 10% of your movie when it's made X amount. So I think it's a lot of it is the relationship, but also the relationship with the community that I'm able to, like, you know, we're still getting people applying to work at our company for our next project because they've seen Rift now. So that's been massive. Yeah.
That's awesome. Oh, what were you going to say, Alan?
What I wanted to add is the first thing doesn't really even require you to get a mega grant, because for games in many festivals there's a special category for Unreal Engine games. There are even single festivals that we can only apply as an Unreal game. And I actually also with Battletoads Alchemist won a prize for best Unreal game in a festival, and that's first of all for that you don't need a mega grant or anything. That's a super cool thing about working in Unreal Engine. And the second thing, what was my second thing? About winning the mega grant.
You tell me.
For me, yeah, I still have to get back to this. Maybe it comes to my mind again. But what helped about the mega grant, me specifically, that's not the thing I wanted to say, but it's still important. It's during the production when we had a kind of a financial hiccup. I had a financial hiccup. That was kind of the finances were more figured out, and there were unforeseeable things happened. And the mega grant kind of filled the war chests. It's crazy. In my case, is you have to have a certain amount of war chest to apply for other funding opportunities, especially if they are federal ones and stuff. It's a bit complicated, and the mega grant enabled me to do that. That was super cool. So this money helped to raise more money. Really literally. That was great. And I have to think what I wanted to add. Maybe Alina can go first, and I try to remember what the thing was I wanted to say.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, it was similar to Has, because you know, I can have it in applications for grants, and I essentially just, it's like a way in. You know, I mean, there was a lovely, you know, event in the beginning where, you know, you meet other recipients, and you know, even though I've not dived in enough into the Mega Grants Discord, I know it's filled with super interesting people, and if I wanted to ask a question or learn more about them, or find potentially recipients that have maybe similar educational goals, or well, just anything really, I can try to figure it out. Like, for example, I could ask Has about how he did film, because I mean, I have all these assets. Maybe someday I can use my game assets to actually make a short movie. I mean, it would be fun, like foraging Dora the Explorer. Let's do it. So I think that's amazing. It's like, it's a way in to the community, and it's also just a way into, you know, to, well, at least on the small scale, be on the radar of, you know, something as big as Epic Games.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I remembered what it was. what I wanted to say. It's a super simple thing. It's if you talk to publishers, and it's a sign of approval. And people say that they say this helped you. This opened the door for us. We get like hundreds of games a week or something, and this is one sign of approval that you have that the others don't, and why we looked at you more closely. It opens doors. That's not the most genius idea here, but yeah, it's a fact, and it's super great.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely second it. Open doors for sponsorship for us as well. The minute we had people like Asus, for example, and Nvidia, we said, hey, we just got an Epic Mega Grant. They're like, wow, that's awesome. What can we do? They kind of ask you, what can we do for you? And that really, that is a testament to the power of the Mega Grant, because there's a level of endorsement, but there's also a level of like, oh my God, this guy went through a process to apply for Epic Mega Grant. He is serious. What can we do to help him? And I think that goes a long way. And it's all partnerships, right? That's part of like being a producer, right? You have to build partnerships, right? And the fact that everyone, all these brands, like if you look at the end credits of Rift, there's a lot of like, there's Wacom, there's Revolution, there's Nvidia, there's Move AI, and all of those people came on because they're like, oh my God, I saw your Epic Mega Grant, like clips you put on, like what can we do to help? And I think when you hear those words, what can we do to help? That's when you realize, oh my God, Mega Grant, huge impact.
Yeah, I'm so glad to hear that there's different types of ways that it has been helpful to all of your journeys. And I do want to take a moment again to just reiterate that your projects are absolutely incredible. And I am personally so incredibly excited to see how they grow and continue. And when they all officially come out, I'm going to be one of the first ones, biggest fan already of all of them. It's going to be so much fun and just incredible to see it all culminate into the end product. But again, I don't want to take up all of your time for the rest of the day. I know for a lot of you, it's already pretty late for you. So don't want to go too much later tonight, keep you up all the time. I do know that, of course, there are a lot of questions involving this particular topic, and there are also a lot of questions about your particular projects. So I want to take a second. We could probably throw up the lower thirds again here. If any of you had questions that were not answered and you're dying to know, please reach out to either us. If it's about the Mega Grants, you can reach out to the Mega Grants team. You can look at the Mega Grant page. Definitely look through the FAQ section like Aria mentioned earlier. There's a ton of great information on there that probably will answer a lot of the questions you have. And if you're interested in any of the particular projects that you saw today, please follow up with them. Go download what you can, interact, ask questions, and participate in just the community at large, and make sure that you're following these projects that you are interested in, and we can all support each other as we go through this journey. It's going to be great. But yeah, with that, there's one other announcement for this week with Mega Grants Week. We will also be kickstarting our next show. We have a brand new show that we'll be releasing tomorrow. It is called UELFG, which stands for Unreal Engine Learning from Games. Little sneaky with the LFG there. It's going to be a Let's Play format show where we are going to have a game developed in Unreal Engine that myself and the developers of that game will actually play through on stream. And I will ask them questions from you, chat, and also just questions about development in general, fun Easter eggs that might be loitering around that we as players wouldn't recognize right away. And all kinds of fun stuff like that. So we'll be kickstarting that tomorrow, same time as usual, 2 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you come hang out, enjoy the new show that we're going to be setting up as well. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to hopefully see a lot of you there as well. But one last thing, of course, thank all of you so much for coming on the show today, taking the time to speak with us, answering questions, showing off your incredible work. I cannot thank you enough, seriously, for taking the time to come on and chat with not only me, but everyone who got to watch and interact. We all really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Thanks.
Of course. Of course. I'm happy to have you here. And if you ever want to come back for whatever reason, just let me, I mean, when it comes time to release or anything, if you just want to come hang out, I'm fine with that. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming to speak with us in our community today. And thank you, everyone, for coming to watch the stream. It wouldn't be what it is without you and your participation. So I appreciate all of you coming here to watch and hang out and just be around. Again, it's all about community and fostering this little family that we have all together. So thank you for being here. If you missed any part of today's stream, that's okay, no worries. We post all of our streams in video format that can be viewed on demand on both our YouTube and Twitch channels. So you can check it out there in the full VOD in case you missed any part. Both of those are at Unreal Engine, in case you didn't know. And don't forget to keep up with us at Unreal Engine on all social media, as well as come say hi on our forums, where you can get the latest news and find all of the links associated with today's stream, of which there are many. So please go check that out so you can follow these projects and give them the love that they really truly deserve. But yeah, with that, that's everything. So thank you all for coming. Hopefully I will see most of you all tomorrow for the new show. And I hope the rest of you have a fantastic rest of your night that you get to actually relax and enjoy. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a lovely day.
You too. Bye.